Hello, and a very warm welcome from Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm Felicia Endersby with the latest edition of Eco Africa for you. Today, we're off on another journey across the continent, as well as making a side trip to Germany. And my colleague Nyota Egbe joins us from Nigeria.
Hello there, Felicia. Indeed, an exciting show is ahead of us. But first of all, I'd like to greet our viewers all over the world and say a big thank you for all your responses to our program. Now, here's what we have lined up today. How to build houses with discarded plastic bottles and sand. How a community cares for rare hippos and their ecosystem in Ghana. And how e-bikes are becoming popular in Namibia. Today's journey starts in West Africa as we head to Senegal. In the Sahel village of Daroudiaji, a women's cooperative has managed to cultivate once arid lands, even though water is a challenge in the Sahel zone. The secret of success was restoring an old well and installing a solar-powered pump to run it. Women in Daroudiaji village are becoming autonomous, and something rarely seen in rural communities in West Africa, they manage their own finances.
A meeting in Daroudiaji. The women in this tiny Senegalese village have joined forces to form a voluntary savings and loan cooperative. Once a week, they get together and each one of them pays in what they can afford. One stamp in personal savings book represents 200 francs, approximately 30 cents. The most reliable woman is in charge of the cash box. Not a single franc has gone astray. The money is safe. Any of the members can borrow money at short notice, but not more than 3 times what they have paid in. The women have agreed on a 10% interest rates. Now we have our own bank and can decide ourselves who gets a loan and at what interest rate. Many of us women have already benefited. In the past, this wasn't possible. The savings cooperatives has turned traditional gender roles in the village upside down, but now even the village elder approves. The women are great. The project means they can help support their men financially, and the men in turn have become more understanding and tolerant. Here in the country, it's actually not customary that women contribute to the family's livelihood. That's why I always encourage all of the women here to participate in the project. The US NGO Create got the ball roaring 4 years ago. They invested almost 30,000 euros, creating together with the women a vegetable plantation almost the size of 2 football fields, with onions, tomatoes, bell peppers. The heavier manual labor is performed by younger women. The older ones are responsible for the hen coop. You can only share in the proceeds if you play an active role. They didn't know how to cultivate onions or other vegetables. When we needed vegetables, we used to walk to other villages and buy them there. Now it's completely the other way around. We have more than enough to eat, and residents from other villages come to us to buy vegetables. This is what it looks like outside the plantation. Daroudiaji lies in the Sahel region. To find water here, you have to drill deep. The biggest investment was a solar plant that provided the energy for the irrigation system. In the dry season, wind-blown desert sand has to be cleaned off the panel. The heart of the facility is the deep, concrete-lined well. From here, the water is pumped into the plantation's 6 holding tanks. We have restored the 70-meter deep well so that groundwater feeds into it again. The water table is only 7 meters down, and the water quality is very good. Water vegetable cultivation, and alternative financial instruments. The project is intended to help sow the seed for the sustainable and ecological development. The NGO will move on in years' time. The women of the village are now self-sufficient. Their plantation yields enough produce to fundamentally change life in Daru-Diaji. Fatou Gueye feels the benefit every single day. With the help of Create, she has constructed 2 clay stoves that fit her cooking pots exactly. That saves time and energy. The food cooks quickly and fewer trees are cut around the village. We need a lot less wood. I used to spend hours in the woods looking for firewood. With the new stove, this little bit of wood here lasts for several days. I save an awful lot of time. Women now have free time. Sometimes they never had in the past. Time to do things they enjoy.
Now, rural homes like those ones we've just seen in Senegal are often built in a traditional fashion using clay as the main material. But can you imagine that discarded plastic bottles can be used as a main construction material, even for big city houses? Well, some people here in Nigeria are using them. Let's have a look at a construction site near the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja.
Nigeria's House of Bottles. This is Africa's largest house built from plastic bottles. To date, over 200,000 of them have gone into the structure near the capital, Abuja. In Nigeria, plastic regularly clogs drainage systems. Yahya Ahmed wanted to make something useful with the bottles. They're filled with sand and stabilized with nylon cord, before being stacked up and cemented in place with clay or mortar. The houses don't absorb any heat, so they don't need air conditioning.
We are lucky to have had this big house here. Where we are staying here now is a water tank, but we are going to use it as a fish pond to train people on aquaculture, that's fish farming.
Yahya Ahmed also wants to train more bottle layers to build more houses like this one.
Do you like that? If you are also doing your bit, tell us about it. Visit our website or send us a tweet. #DoingYourBit. We share your stories.
What an ingenious idea. I wonder what it's like to live in a bottle house. Well, plastic waste is certainly a curse throughout Africa. It's even played a big part in degrading Lake Victoria in Kenya. More than 30 million people live in Victoria's shores, and that also has drastic effects on the environment.
Yes, NT. Overfishing has left more than 3/4 of the fish species unique to Africa's largest inland body of water under threat of extinction. But new kinds of fish farms could help turn the situation around.
This fish tuk-tuk is arriving in Nairobi with a fish delicacy that was never so freshly available here. It's brought a load of tilapia 400 kilometers from Lake Victoria. A new type of cooling box in the cargo hold makes it possible.
Before, when we had fish, we had difficulties because then we had to use the baskets. Now in the baskets, we put ice. Sometimes the ice could get finished.
The fresh tilapia comes from these fish cages in Lake Victoria. Five years ago, just off the island of Mfangano, brother and sister team Gilbert and Michelle Mbeo began to farm fish. They were the first to implement cage aquaculture here. Now they're harvesting some 200 tons of fish annually, which is put directly on ice.
We want to make sure that less fish is wasted as it's harvested. Right now, almost 60%, 40 to 60% of fish that is caught is lost because of no cold chain. So what we are doing is we are recreating the cold chain for fish.
An unbroken cold chain stretching all the way from boat to consumer.
All right, so we got that. So come up this way. It's quite heavy.
Lakeview Fisheries uses the latest technology, like this transportable cooler made by a Finnish startup.
It has a cooling mechanism which is patented. We're using our technology partners that keeps the box cool for up to 7 days. So the sensors that are able to detect when the box is opened and when it's closed and send messages to us to let us know the temperature of the box the whole time. So at any time we're very aware of the freshness of the fish.
The tilapia are hatched and grown in ponds on Mfangano Island before being transferred to their floating cages. Most of the people on Mfangano rely on fishing for their livelihood. During the 1980s, Lake Victoria perch exports were booming. Sustainability wasn't a widely known concept back then, and the lake was fished clean. Michelle and Gilbert Mbeo turn a profit with their farms and want to expand their operation. With support from Germany's GIZ Development Agency, they're building a new, sustainably operating refrigerated warehouse to freeze their fish in.
The sun is very abundant over here. So what really makes sense is to be able to power the cold room using the sun. And so we start to not be affected by the power outages.
The Mbeos want to turn their fish farm into Africa's biggest. And they're hoping to win the people of Mfangano over to fish farming.
We'll stay for a moment at the water's edge, but this time in West Africa. A sanctuary around the Black Volta River in northwestern Ghana is the only natural habitat for pygmy hippos in that country. A couple of years ago, there were only 2 left, but conservation efforts by the local community have helped them bounce back. Today, activists count almost 40 hippos.
Those hoping to catch sight of the rare reclusive animals have a good chance here in northeastern Ghana, near the border with Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso. You'll often see their heads bobbing in the waters of the Black Volta River. Pygmy hippos are viewed as totems by people in the area. They're especially important as cultural symbols for the Wale and Lobi tribes. Abdoulaye Issahaku is one of the chief rangers of the Wechiao Community Hippo Sanctuary. He recalls how local village chiefs founded the conservation program 20 years ago.
The reason for protecting the hippo and the environment is to keep the hippo alive, and we turn it into a tourism site so that children in the next generation will know about the hippo, and the people will also use the tourism as an opportunity for development.
The tourist season has started up again, but the roads leading to the area are bad and the journey is difficult. Tour guide Jabuni Haruna says that prevents many tourists from making the trip. Thanks to the conservation initiative, the number of pygmy hippos here has increased from 2 to almost 40. The project has also been boosted by the number of visitors who come.
Working as a tour guide is really interesting because I've met people all over the world, and we receive visitors ranging 1,800, 1,900 every year. So the numbers keep on increasing because of the work we are doing. I work for my community and we get benefits from the project, and my community people are enjoying the project.
Visitors pay around €6 for a tour. That's a week's wage for many people in Ghana. A large part of this income is divided among the villages in the protected area. As a result, these women and girls no longer have to walk all the way to the river to fetch water. All the residential areas now have their own wells, co-financed by the sanctuary. The centre also runs an alternative livelihood project in beekeeping. The beehives are tended by local people. Sales of the honey will provide additional income for 5 communities here.
So what is going to happen is if they harvest and they have a good yield, they can sell and then use the proceeds to put more hives into the fence. And also, if they start getting profit out of it, they can use the money to send their children to school, to buy clothes for their children.
One of the local people who has benefited from the Hippo Protection Initiative is Samaila Abudi. His teacher training was paid for by donations. The 24-year-old has been back here for several years and now teaches children in one of the villages in the protected area.
At the school level, I'm a subject teacher, particularly English language, and I enjoy teaching them because most of them are very fluent when it comes to speaking. And they also pay much attention to whatever we're saying, so they are already adopted what we call good or quality listening skills.
Right now, Abdullahi Isahaku is busy assigning his people to the new safari routes. The sanctuary's success over the past decades has motivated neighbouring communities too. Several villages further up the river now want to join the initiative to benefit from protecting pygmy hippos.
Caring for the environment can lead to success, as we've just seen in Ghana. Take action and do it now. That's Swedish student Greta Thunberg's message to world leaders. The 16-year-old has been on school strike on Fridays for months to fight for effective climate protection. Thousands of school kids and students from all over the world have joined her, demonstrating outside parliaments under their motto, Fridays for Future, instead of going to school. Germany students have joined them. Take a look.
It's Friday afternoon. These teenagers should actually be at school. The weather is cold and miserable, but they're still gathering here in the center of Berlin to prepare a protest. 14-year-old Franziska Wessel has been involved from the start. She, like the other pupils here, wants to see the government take swifter action to combat climate change.
It isn't actually our job to protest for a better future. It's the politicians' job. They're the ones who should have been changing things long ago. That's what they're getting paid for. So it doesn't really make sense for us to go out on the street, but I think it's important or nothing will happen.
We are unstoppable. Another world is possible. In recent months, tens of thousands of children have taken to the streets to protest in a range of countries, including Australia, Sweden, Belgium, Switzerland, and now in Germany. The government here has committed to phase out coal by 2038, but these young people want to see that happen by 2030. The action is known globally as School Strike for Climate. Here it's called Fridays for Future. Just an excuse to skip school?
I don't see it like that. If I wanted to skip school, I'd have better things to do than stand out here in the cold. It's important for us to go on strike to show politicians that it's pointless to go to class if we have no future. We want to show that we need change, and that's why we're striking on Fridays.
That the digital generation is protesting on the streets, rather than just using online means like petitions, has come as a surprise to Klaus Hörlmann. He's a prominent German researcher on youth and schooling.
There are existential threats connected to the environmental issue, and that's why it plays such a big role. Anyone who's 14, 15, or 16 years old today knows that in 70 years, if things continue as they are, existence on this planet will be difficult. And that worries young people a lot.
For Franziska, it's not a temporary phase. Taking action to protect the environment has become a lifestyle choice for her family. They try to buy local, have stopped flying, and have even given up their car. They hope to reduce their carbon footprint. That might not be so easy in Germany's rural areas, but cycling infrastructure and public transport make it simple here in Berlin.
I think everyone should start fighting for their future now, because it's also my future and the future of humanity on this planet that will either be destroyed or that we try to hold on to.
I'm incredibly proud of my daughter, that she doesn't spend her afternoons in shopping malls, but does something to make the world better, something to preserve it so that it remains beautiful for my grandchildren. I'm really proud.
Buying clothes new or second-hand, getting the latest mobile phone. Those will be the daily tests they encounter outside of Fridays for Future.
Keep it in the ground. Keep it in the ground. Keep it in the ground.
Reducing your carbon footprint is one way to help fight climate change. Using electric bikes instead of cars can be a first step. That's what Namibian company Sun Cycles promotes. It's based in the capital Windhoek, and as the name suggests, the firm produces bicycles powered by the sun.
Indeed, Felicia, it's a very promising concept in a country where the sun shines 300 days out of 365 days a year. Sun Cycles tailors its bikes for different uses with the aim of promoting sustainable and affordable mobility.
Denzel Mayende's job is to deliver medicine to pharmacies around the Namibian capital Windhoek. He does so on one of the country's first e-bikes. His deliveries need to arrive at the pharmacies early in the morning. This way he gets to avoid the traffic.
E-bike is very easy. The time I started, there was an old bike, so oops, I used to struggle a lot with that bike, but this one gave me the strength to do my work. I do everything easily all the time.
So far, e-bikes are the rare exception on Namibia's roads. Marita and Bernhard Walter introduced them in 2014. Their social enterprise, Sun Cycles, is based in a converted shipping container in a backyard close to the city. Sun Cycles not only manufactures e-bikes made in Namibia, the company also builds recharging stations powered by solar cells. The bikes run on clean energy. That's part of the concept.
So our main aim is to provide an alternative and more sustainable form of transport to specifically low-income commuters, but also private customers, game guards, healthcare workers, kindergarten teachers, anywhere where a normal bicycle is limited in its usefulness and where a car can be substituted.
More than 100 Sun Cycle bikes are already in use around the country, including here at the Salambala Community Conservancy. The reserve is situated in the northeast of Namibia, where the Chobe River forms a natural border to Botswana. The wildlife here not only attracts tourists, but also bushmeat hunters and ivory poachers. For a long time, the rangers had to patrol the area on bikes with just one gear. Thanks to donations, they now have 8 e-bikes, which allow them to work far more efficiently. On a normal day, the rangers cover up to 25 kilometers of the bush.
E-bikes, they help us as rangers by conducting patrols in the core area here. As the conservation is too big to patrol by footing.
The rangers wouldn't want to trade their bikes for a car. The bikes may not be as strong as a 4x4, but they're much more agile. They need to be recharged after every 60 kilometers.
During the daytime, we charge the car battery. And in the evening, we can take the cable and charge the battery of the bicycle with the car battery. So we can still charge the bicycle battery when it's dark.
The robust and simple design of the e-bikes is well suited to working in the bush and allows the rangers to do most repairs themselves. The vision is that high sales will allow the company to lower the bike price from about €600 to 350. The team are hoping that a crowdfunding campaign will bring in the necessary capital to get the project off the ground. While it may take some convincing to make commuters switch from car to bike, the rangers of the Salambala Conservancy have already been well and truly won over.
And that's it for today. Our eco journey across the African continent is over for this week. For now, it's goodbye from me in Johannesburg, South Africa, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Felicia. I'm signing off as well, but please check out our content on our website and on our social media. And I'll be happy to have you tune in again for next week's edition of Eco Africa. Goodbye.